and welcome to Those Who Can't Do. I am your host, Andrea Forkham, and today we have an absolutely hilarious guest. But before we get to that, I have to tell you about the foulest thing I have ever seen my child do. And any parents know that just could be any number of things because kids are, as much as we love them, disgusting human beings. And my son, who is almost 4, he'll be 4 later this month, I took him to swim lessons, right? Because I am trying to be responsible and make sure that my child is water safe. And so while my daughter's in her swim lesson, I take my son in to the locker room and get him changed, get him a shower, clean off all that chlorine, because responsible momhood, right? And so I'm so mortified. So he is taking his shower. He's enjoying. I told him don't sit on the floor. I have water shoes for him that he refused to wear. And I was like, you know what? I'm picking my battles. That's gross, but okay, it's fine. So he's like standing in the shower and I'm like, okay, buddy, it's time to be done. I turn off the water and I turn to grab the towel and I look back and my son has crouched on the floor of the gym shower and has scooped up some of the shower water that was above the drain and brought it to his mouth and drank it. And the look on my face of sheer disgust and horror and trauma, where I'm like trying not to traumatize him and be like, my brain short circuited. I was like, no, don't do that. Never do that. Don't ever never ever do that. And he just kind of looked at me like, what? And I was like, that water is so gross. It's so gross. And he just kind of looked at me like, it tasted good, mama. And I'm like, all right. Okay. So, and it reminded me at the same time of that moment in Chevy Chase's Christmas Vacation where Uncle Eddie has his daughter and he's like, no, I wouldn't do that, Clark. She's got lip fungus we ain't identified yet. Like that's what I'm like, I'm going to be that parent that's like, sorry about my kid's lip fungus. He licks water off of gym shower drains. Like, anyways, parent of the year for me. We learn lessons sometimes in ways we don't necessarily want to learn them. And that is actually something that I discuss a little bit with my wonderful guest, Rebecca Rogers. We discussed quite a bit about our first year's teaching and the lessons we learned sometimes through making a few mistakes. So without further ado, let's get right to it. I am so excited to be here today with Rebecca Rogers. Rebecca, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, this is so fun because I feel like I've been following you since like mid-pandemic because that's when you started doing the whole TikTok and YouTube and Instagram stuff, right?
Yeah. At first, it was supposed to just be an inside joke with my students, and it ended up not being that for very long. I started one first, and then all the rest kind of followed. But it's fine. I'm just rambling. ADHD, man. But I feel like I've also followed you for the longest time, too.
Oh, my gosh.
And that's the funny thing about internet friends is, like, you feel like you know each other.
But really, because, I've followed you, seriously. So I remember mid-pandemic, I think you were one of the first people I followed because it was so fun to see a fellow secondary teacher out there on the platforms because a lot of the content, and I was at that point primarily on Instagram and had just dipped my toe in the TikTok pond.
Yeah.
And it felt like on Instagram, especially, it's a lot of elementary and we love elementary. We love them.
Mm-hmm.
But the energy is different
It's so different.
Sure.
100%. And it's so funny because everyone always assumes they teach elementary, and I get it. I do get it.
Yeah.
But you could not pay me enough.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. No. You get me. I like being able to tell my students, I don't want to see your face, bye. And they know that I don't actually mean it.
Yeah.
And not if they cried in front of me, I don't know what I would do.
No, exactly. And that's definitely the thing for me where the sarcasm just doesn't translate to kids as much. Unless it's my kid. My kid's 5 and she can dish it out and take it. And she's got inherited the poor child, my dry wit. And so she's probably making, her teacher cry sometimes.
Poor child, your poor husband, man.
He said that to me the other day. I can't remember what she came out of her room and said something like so sassy to us. And my husband just looked at me and he's like, that was you. That is your fault. I don't know why I'm having to deal with this now. And I'm like, all right. But she's also like a compulsive planner, like my husband, where we've had some minor flooding at our house. And my daughter had heard at school, like, oh, there's going to be a lot of rain tonight. And she came home and she's like, Mom, there's going to be a lot of rain. And I was like, yeah, there is. And she's like, what are we going to do about the water in the office? And I'm like, you're 5. Why are you worried about that? Like, who worries about the structural integrity of your home when you're 5? Like, ma'am.
See, that's like another component to elementary, though. All the questions. Like, because like when they're little, you're supposed to like spark their interest in things. But sometimes I just want to be like, that's enough questions, man. And you can't do that for the little sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't have all the answers.
So now
I don't have any of the answers, but sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. So you were a social studies teacher, right? A high school teacher?
What did you teach?
English.
Okay. Yeah, I'll take it over science and math. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean history and English.
Humanities.
Yeah, they're on the right side of the road. Now, what grades did you mostly teach?
Which grade did I mostly teach? Which grades did I love to teach? Those are very different.
Both.
They kept sticking me with the seniors, man. I was 22. Why are you what? They're over here like inviting me to Taco Tuesdays. I'm like, I know that I'm not taller than you, and I look like we're the same age. But we're not.
Yeah.
I'm an adult. I promise I am.
Yeah.
So seniors are my least favorite to teach. They just are. My favorite to teach are freshmen. And I was really split between the two groups. Because freshmen are like still young enough where they're a little bit afraid of you.
Yeah.
And not all of them have gone through puberty yet. So I look like an adult compared to them. And it just worked out. And I loved my freshmen. I still love freshman age. It's a good age.
So it's so funny because most of my teaching years, I was either teaching seniors or freshmen. So I also had a lot of time with those two ages. And I've had people ask me so much, like, what is your favorite grade to teach? And I've always said that it's freshmen in spring or seniors in fall. Because freshmen in spring, you have the relationships. They've started to like vibe with you. They listen to you. Like they're just starting to mature and are such different humans from like the unbridled humanity that is like fall freshmen. And then seniors, spring is garbage because they're checked out. They've got senioritis really bad. But like fall, I really like fall seniors because they are really mature generally at that age, and you can talk to them about things a lot easier than you can with the freshmen.
That's true.
Although I also started my first year teaching, I was also teaching seniors.
Right. Why do they do that? I feel like that's so irresponsible.
Well, and I was teaching remedial seniors too. So that meant some of these seniors had also failed several years. So I'm teaching 20-year-olds because in Virginia.
At 22.
Yeah, right. Like,
who comes up with these good ideas? These are terrible. This is terrible planning.
So bad. And my classroom management was non-existent. It was so.
Right, because we're first-year teachers.
We don't know what we're doing. And I recently told a story on TikTok about this kid who threw raisins at me, and he like jumped on his desk and called himself Raisin Man and then like chucked a handful of raisins across the classroom. Like I was like trying to rotate and work with kids on their essays, and that was the chicanery that was going on around me, right? And like now, it was such a long time ago because like, it was a decade ago. So now he is 28. Has a baby, has a fiance. And so
that's so weird to think about.
So weird. And he, when I posted that, everyone was just so hyped about Raisin Man because that's what he called himself. Like, you can't stop Raisin Man. And there were just so many comments. And I saw that his fiance commented and was like, oh my gosh, Raisin Man lives again. Because I've told the story before, like a couple years back. And I wrote her and I was like, hey, like, how is he? His name's Chris. I was like, how is Chris? How's Raisin Man? She's like, he's so good. And I was like, how's the baby? She's like, not a baby anymore. He's 2. We're getting married in the spring. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And like, I wanted so bad to like post an update about Raisin Man and everything. But like all the family photos she has, unsurprisingly, Raisin Man is making a really weird face. And I don't want to post it and be like, here's Raisin Man in all in his glory and his beautiful family, because he's making a weird face in all of them. But I'm hoping I can get like an update thing because a lot of times when it's crazy stories like that, people are like, you are making this up for sure. There's no way a kid did that.
People don't understand that when it comes to teaching, like we don't have to make anything up. Like, we don't have to exaggerate. We don't
No.
have to make anything up. Like, some of these things are just so crazy. And
Yeah.
like the audacity that some kids have when they think there are no consequences. Like when I was 22 teaching seniors, literally, I'll never forget. I was also teaching, they put me on an elective that was a teacher-made exam. I'll never forget. So these kids like signed up for this class as study hall, and that teacher left, and then I came in and was like, let's learn. And they were not interested at all.
Wait, what did you try and have them learn?
It was world religions. And when I thought it was so fascinating.
Oh, yeah.
Because I really am like a history lover, a history nerd, a history geek, like all the things. I'm that friend that you don't want to take to a museum because I will read every single written down thing and description and everything. So like literally on the first day of school, I showed up. There also was no state curriculum posted. Like we used to have our curriculum stuff posted on this database called CMAP. And every time I would go to the world religions page, if you clicked on unit 1, it would go to geometry. And then if you clicked on unit 2, it would go to physics. I'm like, I'm not doing that. No. So I literally showed up on the first day of school. And I was hired 2 days before the first day of school, like the Friday before the first day of school.
Nice.
And I just said, hey guys. And I was the only teacher teaching this class also. Like I had no help and there was no standards. There was no state test. So I just said, hey, what do you guys want to learn about? And I just had the kids like walk up to the whiteboard and start writing down different types of cultures that they were interested in. And then I just kind of grouped similar ideas and made like a whole curriculum out of that. So like we started with ancient mythologies. And then we moved on to tribal religions in both like throughout Africa and North and South America. And then we did a unit on Asian culture, like Jainism, Zoroastrianism, things like that. And then we did the major 5. And like that was our year-long unit.
That's so cool though. I would have loved a class like that. I was put in a similar situation and did not handle it as gracefully as you because my first year I was given, so I had like that remedial English 12 class, and then they gave me like, you know how when kids fail, they put them all into like a computer lab and then they all cheat their way through whatever units there are to get credit recovery, right? I was in charge of babysitting that class. And then I had a journalism class and there was no existing, like there was nothing for the journalism class at all. And so my first year, I would love to say it went as smoothly as your world religion class. It did not. It was like, we're going to start.
Oh, it didn't go smoothly. Oh, no.
But it sounded great.
No. It on pay, like, ideally, it sounded like a really good idea at the time.
Yeah.
Remember, these kids thought they were signing up for study hall. Yeah. No. And then what I'll never forget, like there was one kid who wouldn't do anything. Like, and he was someone that he was going to have, like, I think he had a full ride to state or something. And he just did not care. And he didn't even open his backpack the entire semester. And so his friends would always troll him about it, about how like he literally doesn't even open his backpack. And so one day he went to the bathroom and I saw them messing around about how they were going to move his backpack to the other side of the table and just see how long it was going to take for him to notice because he doesn't even look at it during our class. And so he got back and like he did immediately notice it was gone and just started freaking out about where's his backpack to the point that he snatched one of the girl's phones out of her hand and started running out of the classroom as in like, I'm going to steal your phone because you took my backpack. And then I stood up and I was like, you can't leave this room with someone's phone. Like, am I going to get in trouble for that? I don't know.
Probably.
Yeah, like that's theft on my watch, I guess. I was like, you can't do that. And he literally turned around, looked me dead in the eye and said, I graduate in 2 months, man. What are you going to do about it? And just left. And I was like,
you're like, nothing, it turns out. Turns out nothing. I'm just going to sit here and take that, I guess.
Oh my God. I was
no.
so annoyed. I
Oh my gosh. That's
I
so
hate
brutal.
seniors. I
Yeah.
can't stand them.
And that attitude is like pretty prevalent with seniors too. The what are you going
Oh
to
my
do about it
God.
thing. The only card
Right.
you have to play is graduation. But the problem is that the pressure to get them to graduate is almost more on the teacher sometimes than the kid. Like, if you have a class of seniors and you are sitting there and you have 3 kids who are failing, I remember that year specifically, I had to turn in a list of interventions that I had done, a list of communication, like a communication log between myself and the parents with like dates, what was said, all of that, in order to demonstrate that I did enough to help that kid pass. Now, this kid had to demonstrate literally nothing, right? Because he was failing and he wouldn't, or she, because I had both. That
Yeah.
especially
We
that
don't
first
know.
year.
It's anonymous.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Like they would fail, and then they'd be like, "Well, why did this kid fail?" And I'm like, "Well, he comes once a week on a good week. How am I? You want a list of accommodations? I tried. Like when I saw him, I would be like, "Hey,
Like you know he has to be in the room to receive the accommodations, correct? Like, are we on the same
right."
page here?
Exactly. Well, and I'm not even talking about kids with IEPs because that's like a whole different system, but I would try and accommodate for, whatever the needs of the kid were. And
Absolutely.
it was just wild to me that, and I remember sitting with an administrator and they were like, you need to have this documented, just CYA all the time. Like that was everything. Like I heard over and over, like cover your ass, because if you don't, they're going to come to you and they're going to be like, why do you have these kids failing? And I'm so relieved that post COVID, I didn't teach seniors, because that I felt like would have been such a completely different beast than teaching the other grades where it's like, okay, well, we need to try and get them to where they need to be. But I had so many kids failing when we came back from the pandemic. It was like nothing I had ever seen, where it's like, oh, it's like 40% of the class is failing right now. And the bar is on the floor to pass.
Did you teach seniors like March 2020 when everything shut down? Did you have seniors?
I had juniors.
I had seniors.
Those poor babies. I do feel bad for them. The seniors who didn't get to walk.
I don't. Well, for the not walking, yes.
Yeah.
But for what I'm about to tell, I don't feel bad at all. Like, so this was our school's policy. And like, yes, okay, I will say I feel bad for the things that they missed out on. I don't want that to be misconstrued.
Right.
But like, the policy that our kids got was that like March 2020, we locked down. We basically like didn't have school for a few days while the school figured out what we were going to do. And then all of a sudden they got back to us. They're like, you know what? Seniors are good, man. Seniors are good. If they're fine, we're fine. But if they want to increase whatever grade they have currently, they can come to your little virtual class and do whatever to increase whatever. So like, they basically got whatever grade they wanted.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That is wild.
I don't feel bad. Like, they got whatever grade they wanted.
They just got, and they also got to do class optionally, which is wild.
You want to know what's more wild?
What?
After like 2 weeks, that's what they decided for everybody.
No way.
Yeah.
That is insane. And especially like in different districts, and like the districts around me, they were very flexible and they really, really put the standards on the floor. And, there were no hard deadlines and we had to be very flexible and all of that. But I think that there was still an expectation for kids to show up because there were still attendance policies in place, and like right to education laws still existed. So I don't know how your district got away with that.
Because they still had the option. Like, we still had optional class. Like, they could come if they wanted to. Did they have to? No.
Truancy just did not exist at that point.
Oh, truancy, like, never. Do y'all like follow through on that in your district? Because
yes.
I'm telling you, I had a kid who was absent more than 50 days in a row. Like, they don't do anything here.
That is wild.
Yeah.
Can we out the state? What state is it? I won't make you say the district.
North Carolina. Yeah.
That is wild. I taught Virginia and California, and they were really strict. Like if you were gone, that's probably an exaggeration. I wouldn't say they're really strict. If teachers have been doing what they're supposed to do with documenting absences, which is not always because there's a lot of teachers like me that forget to do attendance.
I forget to do it all the time, man. But I would always like follow up on it. Yeah.
I wouldn't. At the end of the semester, I got a stack of like, and I'm not exaggerating, like 100 pages where they printed out each class and had dates listed. So it was like an attendance roster. And they were like, here you go, Andrea. These are all the days that you forgot to submit attendance. Legally, we have to have this submitted. And they looked at me and expected me to go back and be like, yes, I remember on February 12th, Billy was gone and Jimmy was late by 5 minutes. Like, they knew that
no,
I'm not.
They knew it was going to be BS.
I don't know if there's a statute of limitations on this, but if somebody wanted to do a crime during my class, like that was a safe bet that I probably.
You know what used to always annoy me is, and this is just like a petty pet peeve. Like literally, I know there's going to be so many teachers that hear this and they're going to be like, shut up, newbie teacher. Like, cause I was a newbie teacher. But so, like during the 10-day count, that's when everyone is figuring out like who's really in your class. And if they're not there for those 10 days, they get dropped from your roster.
Yeah.
Right? I would get so annoyed when like maybe it wasn't even just during the 10-day count. It's been so long now. I've been out of the classroom for 3 years and it feels like 10.
Yeah.
Maybe it was also during like regular times if they were gone for like, if they were marked absent 10 days in a row, they would be dropped from the class, but they had to be marked absent in every class. Sorry, it wasn't the 10-day count. I'm losing it. So I would take meticulous attendance of like, because it gets, when I have 42 kids on my roster and I have 5 that are continuously just not ever showing up, I would like to whittle down my list a little bit. It just feels more manageable to me.
Yeah.
But then I would go and like, I would mark, okay, here are the 30 days in a row that these kids aren't here. But then like every other day, a teacher would forget to do attendance and just mark everybody there. And so I didn't get to nick them off.
It was
Andrea!
me. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
And I'd be like, come on, Miss Smith, it wasn't there. Stop.
It was me.
It just felt like it feels more overwhelming. You know what I mean?
Oh,
like
100%.
To see 42 names.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have enough desks for all my kids at some points in my teaching career.
I think people think we're exaggerating when we're saying 42. Like my biggest ever was 43. And it was exactly that. I did not have enough chairs. I had to call the custodian and they had to find more chairs because, budget cuts happened and all of that. And so they just, instead of hiring more teachers or keeping the amount of teachers, they allowed attrition to happen. And then they would just increase the class sizes because it's much more economical to do it that way, despite the fact that class sizes are one of the biggest predictors to student success. And so the class sizes would just get bigger and bigger. And I remember vividly my first year teaching at the school I was last at. So I was there for 3 years. And my first year there, I had a 6th period class that had 43 freshmen in it. And that is an unholy amount of freshmen to have in one room. I vividly remember, I think I had 25 boys in that class too, which is a lot.
When I had 42 freshmen in a room, I don't remember the exact number of boys, but I know it was mostly boys.
Yeah. You do. Quick when you go into a room.
People like the people who aren't teachers, like they don't get it. But the teachers who are the people who are teachers, they get it.
Yeah.
Man.
They
get it.
It is a wild thing to have that many, because you try your best to like move students around and get them engaged and doing all these things. But if you have 40, 42, 43 kids in a classroom, there's no room. You can't be like, okay, get into groups. Like, okay, let's turn.
There's nowhere to sit. There's nowhere to go.
It's like, it's painful. Now, I don't know about you, but when I was in school, my class sizes were like 25 to 30, I think was pretty standard. What was your high school experience like? Were you in class sizes that were about like that as well?
Well, so I went to school in the same county that I taught in. And we I think we have the largest county in North Carolina. Charlotte might be slightly bigger. But in Raleigh, we had 17 high schools. So like I went to one high school and then my first year teaching, I taught at one of the rival schools and then then I got displaced. So for those who don't know, the 10-day count is important because it's when the schools figure out exactly how many students are actually in the school who are not just enrolled, but like physically present. And it's how the schools can determine how many staff they're allowed to house at that school because teachers aren't employed by the school, they're employed by the county. And then the county will move teachers around based off of what school has needs less teachers, need more teachers, whatever. So the school that I first year taught at was predicted to have less students because a new high school was opening up down the road. So half their student population was going to be leaving. And so technically they had to displace 2 teachers from every single department. And it was funny because there were 4 or 5 BTs in our department, beginning teachers. And I was one of the first in, so I was the one that got displaced. So I went to a different school that was also down the road. And these are all like I taught at some of the like score wise and socioeconomic wise, like some of the higher end high schools. And it was just fascinating. It was the most interesting experience, like even just seeing how different those 2 high schools were. So like to give you an idea, the school that I first taught in, I would teach blended world history, which is both honors and academic together. At my first school, blended world history meant I would have all honors kids except for 5. And that was pretty standard across the board.
Wow.
Whereas at the next school, it was very much half and half.
Yeah.
Of 42 kids. But then again, at my second school, the range of students there, it was wild. I had some students who went home to houses with 3-4 car garages. And then I had some students who were homeless. And it was just, the cultures were so different of the 2 schools. Literally night and day. You would have no idea that they were 15 minutes down the road from each other.
Yeah.
Crazy. Absolutely crazy.
That's exactly why when someone tells me they're having a really hard time at the school that they're at, they're really unhappy with, the admin or the school culture or anything like that. One of the first things I recommend is always like try and see if there's another school, even within your district, that might be a better fit. Because I've heard from so many people that they had a really hard time and then they switched to a different school and they were like, "Oh, I love teaching again," which is again shows the power of like a culture at a specific school and the way that admin kind of decides to do their job. And I honestly think a big part of it too is like the more senior teachers and the way that they view education and the way they view their students can massively change the community and the culture at a school.
Yes, 100%. And I think it's so interesting because my first school, again, like this was a very high achieving kind of environment. And I'm talking, these kids were competing so hard to be valedictorian and to be top of the class. Like these kids were applying to go to Ivy Leagues. And I think a lot of that competitive nature also kind of bled into the staff, if that makes sense.
Oh,
and
totally.
I hated it. Like, I kid you not. And this, like, as once I moved on and became like, I never really became a veteran teacher. I only stayed in teaching for 5 years. I will never call myself a veteran teacher. I was forever a baby. Like, even as a 4th, 5th year teacher, looking back on how they did this, I'm like, that was a stupid idea. I don't know who thought of that. Like, this school had so many kids. They had the main building and then they had the pods, right?
Yeah.
And the pods, for those that don't know, a pod is basically like a little mini building that has 8 classrooms in it. And they would stick, in our department, they just stuck all of the BTs in the pod. to figure out
Just
teaching
figure it out.
themselves.
Yeah.
Just figure it out. You got it. And like looking back, I'm like, that was such a bad idea. Like, I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
Why would you ever stick all the newbies together where they only have each other?
Oh my gosh.
What? Like, made absolutely no sense. And like, God, I'm so happy that I left that.
Oh my gosh.
I still, my mentor though from that school still checks up on me sometimes.
Aw,
Like
I
to
love
this
that.
day.
That's so great.
He's really sweet. I taught
Aw.
his son. It was like a really good experience for me too. His son was really cool.
That is so cool. Yeah, I think we all have some stories like that of our early years and the shenanigans we get ourselves into as beginning teachers, which is what we are going to jump into as soon as we come back from our break. So be right back. And welcome back. So, Rebecca, I had so many moments, especially with that journalism class, where I just totally put my foot in my mouth and came wildly unprepared to class. And you, it sounds like, were put into a pod with a bunch of other beginning teachers. So, were there any moments that stand out to you as a new teacher where you were like, "Oh, that was not it. That was not good"?
Yeah, there's so many. I need to preface this with like, I didn't really have the most productive student teaching experience either. Like, my CT would just be like, okay, I'm going to the YMCA. I'm gonna go work out.
What?
Bye. Like, I'm not kidding. Or she'd just like go sit in her friend's class down the hall.
And she was like, "Experience is the best teacher. Bye."
Literally, I would like come in with like, I need you to fill out a form that like tells me how I'm doing. And she's like, "You're doing great," and would sign off. And then my professors would come in and be like, "You're not where we need you to be." And I'm like, I don't know what to fix. No one is giving me I don't know.
Oh no.
Anyways, so like going from that to first year teaching by yourself in a pod with only newbie teachers.
Yeah.
It was not it.
Really the blind leading the blind.
I'll never forget, like, I was teaching freshman boys, and we were playing this review game for a test. And it was so much fun. Like, I came up with some of the coolest games, man. So much fun. And I remember one team got a point, and I turned around to write a little tally on the board. And I turned back around. And I don't know how they did this in the 5 seconds that I turned around. But when I turned around, one of my boys was on the desk in a full-on handstand. Like, feet on the ceiling. And literally, I was a cheerleader for 15 years. So my first reaction was, that is really good form. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, I'm the adult here. Crap. Oh no. You need to get down. And I was like, wait. And I was like, don't try to come down because you're going to fall. And so I made all the boys like carefully try to pick him up.
Oh my gosh.
And like position him back. Because I was like, if you fall and I get in trouble, like I don't have time for this, man. I can't deal with that.
Yeah.
And so it was that was a day.
Oh my gosh.
That was definitely a day. Yeah.
Those moments where you're like, oh, I'm the adult. Like
I'm
we
the
feel
adult.
like someone should there should be an adult.
Is there
here.
a more adult here? That
an
would
adult
be
here.
So great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There were so many times that I had experiences like that. The worst part would be when I would do like the online games like Kahoot or Quizlet or one of those, and I would just not recognize some of the foul names that they were putting in. And I would just be like, that's a weird name. And I would stare at it because I let them choose whatever name they wanted, and I learned my lesson quite quickly that when they did that, that meant it was going to be like, Ben space Dover. Right? Like Ben Dover or
Amanda Hug and Kiss. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But usually it would be like really foul, or it would be using like slang terminology that I was not even familiar with. And I would like, I was about to say something really foul, and I'm like, I don't know if that we could bleep it
out. Yeah,
we'll
bleep
it out if
it out.
we need to. It would be stuff like referencing bukkake and stuff like that I'm like, and I would just have, it would be like buck and then aki, like separate. And I would be That's fine. That's not a bad thing. And then afterwards, like a really sweet girl would come up and be like, miss, that was a reference to, and I'm like, it was a reference to what?
Oh,
Or it'd be like a post-it note they like slid onto my desk, like Google this next time. Don't put that up there.
oh
Because of course kids
no.
are like taking pictures, cracking up, and I'd be like, all right, Buck Aki, amazing job leading the pack
Oh,
today. What a winner, Buck. Way to go.
no.
And like
See,
so
I don't trust
embarrassing.
nobody. I went in knowing these kids not to
Ugh.
be trusted. Absolutely not. Not in a million years. I I really struggled with, especially again, being in the pods with newbie teachers only.
Yeah.
Um, my first year, like my big scary trauma from that year was from this one parent. And I could write a book with each chapter being a different situation from this lady. But I'll tell you the first one that started it. And this set the tone for the entire year. So this woman contacted me. So like, did you guys have Remind?
Yes.
You know what Remind is?
Mhm.
Okay, so we had Remind. For those that don't know, it's like a an application where teachers can like quote text
Yeah.
kids and parents without actually giving their personal information. And I had my hours set to weekdays from 7:30 to 3, and that's when they could send me a Remind message. And I remember getting an email from this parent that said, "Hey, um Connor needs a better way to get in touch with you." And I said, "Oh, well, Connor has my Remind." No. There are some times where he sends you Remind messages where you don't respond. And I said, "Yeah, are you referring to when he like sends me messages at 8 p.m. or like on Saturdays? That I don't have office hours during those times, so he's not going to get a response from me at
Right.
those times." Well, he needs your phone number so that if he needs to get in touch with you and you're not on Remind, he can. And
Mm.
I said, "I'm sorry, I don't feel comfortable giving you my phone number." And she
Yeah.
goes, "I didn't ask you for your phone number." And I like went back in my email and looked,
Did you cite
and I
her
was like,
to
"No, no, no,
herself?
it's right there."
Quote.
And I said, "Sorry, maybe we misunderstood each other. Bottom line is these are my hours for Remind. He can get in touch with me during those hours. If he messages me outside of those hours, I will, when I come back to office hours, I will see it whenever I come back." And she again, "Okay, but can you get your number for when you are unavailable, when he asked me an additional time and used the word phone number."
Like,
And
ma'am.
I said, "Once again, I don't give out my phone number. I'm not comfortable with that." And she like snapped. She's like, "You're making me out to be some kind of creep, okay? I never even asked you for your phone number. You need to stop with these accusations. Like, it's not cute." And
You're like, well,
I
I was trying to be cute, so that's unfortunate to hear.
I was stunned. And then like 2 hours later, I get a call from the front
Oh my
office.
God.
And apparently she called the secretary and asked them for my phone number. And
Oh,
I was like, "What?" And they're like, "We didn't give it to her, obviously, but like you might just need to check in and see if she needs something."
oh
So
my
I sent her a
gosh.
third email and I was like, "Hey, Miss Smith,
Again.
I just got a call from the office. They said you were looking for my phone number to get in contact with me. I just wanted to check in and see if there was anything I could do for you." And she, again, "I don't know why you keep accusing me of these creepy things." Like, I'm not a stalker. And I'm
Oh
like,
my gosh.
"Okay."
You know what I would do? I would just start full on trolling her and be like, I am so sorry I'm not approachable enough. The way I actually prefer to be communicated with is via carrier pigeon. So if you could train a
Well,
carrier pigeon.
one time I did stand up for myself, like during another issue. It was when she told me that I was not being proactive enough in helping her child deal with his severe medical condition, which was ADHD, that I also have, that I was fulfilling all accommodations for. But it
Right.
was because she wanted me to walk him to lunch and steer him away from the red Gatorade. And she was very upset I would not do that. I digress. I once told her I no longer feel comfortable like communicating with you one-on-one, and I would prefer if you go through my administrator. Like,
Yeah.
please contact the administrator because I no longer feel very comfortable in these one-on-ones. And then my principal told me I wasn't allowed to do that.
What? Why?
She's like, you're not allowed to tell a parent that you're not going to communicate with them.
That's not
and
what
I'm
you
like,
said.
she's calling me stupid. Like, I don't like, she's telling me that I had no right to like tell her kid he can't plagiarize his project. She's like telling me I have to leave my third period class to walk her kid to lunch and make sure and watch him.
A high schooler.
Because it's my response. Yeah, a 14-year-old boy.
Like, we're not talking about a 6-year-old. We're talking about a high schooler who, at this point, ma'am, if you like that's on you. Like, how you choose to parent your child. And if it is that important to you that they don't get red dye number 4 or whatever it is you're concerned about in their system, like, have that conversation. We are not like we're not therapy dogs.
Yeah.
Like, we can only do so much.
They had the conversation, but he just didn't listen.
Right. It's shocking.
Which,
shocking that the 14-year-old boy
boys, why would they,
Right. Mm-hmm.
But, don't you know it was my fault? Like,
yeah. Why you should have gone to the lunchroom and smacked the Gatorade out of his hand every time he tried to drink it.
100%. No, because then I would be in trouble for hurting him.
Right, his feelings and embarrassing him in front of
his friends
and
telling him no. Don't you know you can't tell him no?
Yeah.
Come on, Andrea.
Really damaging for their self-esteem to hear that. Oh my god.
Or like the time that he like wouldn't stop like on the desk.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "Hey, Connor, there's some people trying to take a quiz. Like, can we not?" But then I was telling him he would not make that. That meant I was telling him he couldn't be a drummer when he grew up. That he was not. Yeah. Stifling his dreams. This mom literally was like, I still have dreams about her.
That is wild behavior. I had only one parent that behaved even remotely close to that. And even that, like, I feel like I was pretty well shielded from it. But she like came for me and like screamed about me in like in the lunchroom. She came to the school to find me, but didn't know where my classroom was and was like screaming at lunch where the entire high school was there because we had one lunchtime. She was screaming about me, and like my principal was wonderful and like got her calmed down and got her like out of the public eye and all of that. But the worst part is she started going to my church after that. And so I would see her, and she was very distinctive because she had her hair like, so she was very unwell. Like she had a lot of health issues and stuff like that. And so I really tried to have a lot of empathy of like, listen, like if I was in pain all the time, and I also thought that I wasn't going to be around for my kids' graduation or something, I could see myself not probably thinking very clearly and taking it out on people, right? Like hopefully we don't do that, but like I tried to have a lot of empathy with that, and
to understand,
right. And so she had her hair in a lot of different colors because I think she was just very much in the like, I'm going to live life to the fullest energy.
Yeah,
which we
she's
love
just
that.
trying to live it up. Yeah,
right. We love that, but that also meant that I could recognize her from a mile away because she had a very distinctive like hairstyle and all of that, which by the way was actually really cute. But to me, it was like that Jaws theme music every time I saw it because I was terrified of her because my principal is not at my church. And so I would see her from like across the congregation and it would be like, da-na. And I'm like, all right, guys, like it's time to go. Like telling my husband, like, let's wrap this up. Let's put a button on this, get on with our day. Cause I lived in fear because she knew who I was and she knew what I looked like. And her daughter also went to church with her, who we had the interaction that we had. And I'm just like living in constant fear of this person. But now I live several states away, but I still think if I saw that same like pattern of hair coloring, I would just start feeling anxious again, just because I'm like, oh no, please don't come yell at me.
People don't realize that when it comes to parents with their kids and when they get unjustifiably mama bear on people, like once you move on from that class, like these parents don't really think about us anymore.
Yeah.
Like that's old news. On to the new teachers.
Right.
But like their crazy stays and haunts our dreams for like the next decade.
Oh,
and
yeah.
like
it never fully goes away. Although I will say, like, as a parent, I don't think that I would probably hold a grudge with like the teachers themselves. I think I would hold a grudge for like the kids in my daughter's class that are mean to her, like mean girls. I don't know if like my daughter was like, hey, can this girl come over and spend the night? I'm like, oh, the girl who said that to you 3 months ago? No, she's not welcome in her home.
I only had one incident where I had to really step in with bullying, and I had a girl come up to me and tell me that in her chorus class, she had a lot of girls being very mean to her and belittling her, picking on her and bullying her. And I was like, okay, I will loop in your chorus teacher immediately and we'll figure something out. She's like, no, you can't do that. And I'm like, why? And she's like, cause he loves those girls. And I'm like,
Mm.
okay, well, then I'll go ahead and I'll loop in an administrator. No, well, I don't want anyone to know. And I don't want anyone to talk to them. And I'm like, so what do you want me to do? And she's like, well, I just want them to stop. And I'm like, so you want them to stop,
Yeah.
but you don't want me to tell them to stop. And she's like, yeah, I guess so. And I'm like,
she's like, I hear it now.
girl, like, I want to help you.
It's so
but I don't
hard.
know how.
Yeah, it's super hard too. I just did a video and I talked about some of the mean girl things I was hearing at the middle schools that I've been at because I've, going through and have my early field experience teachers are rotating through. So I'm in middle schools. And my greatest bullying experiences, being bullied, were all in middle school. Like in high school, things got a lot better, but middle school was really rough for me. And so I shared some of the things I was hearing at the middle school and the way, and girls are so much sneakier with their bullying in my experience than boys are. Like boys, I remember vividly there was a boy who called me rolls of power. It's so mean. He called me rolls of power because I was strong, but I was chubby. It was so mean. And I slapped him. Anytime he called me, I physically slapped him, right? And one time he slapped me back. And I remember that vividly as well. And I never told the teacher. It always happened in passing periods. It was always one of those things. Like boys are so much more direct with their cruelty in my experience. Whereas girls, there were these girls in my grade who were and I still remember thinking they were the prettiest girls because this was early 2000s, right? So Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, teeny tiny, skinny thin was very in. And I was never that. And I remember changing in the locker room one day. And I remember I was very self-conscious. So it was 7th grade. I was facing the wall and we had these stalls, but the stalls didn't have doors on them. And I remember hearing these girls giggling. And I turned back and look and they're both kind of looking at me and doing that little whisper thing. And I was like, oh, oh, is it because I think I had a purple bra on that was holding nothing because I was in 7th grade, but I had one. And I was like, oh, is it because I've got a purple bra? And they're like, yeah, that's what we were laughing at. And that moment stayed with me. I am 37 and still I remember the feeling of the gut punch that was and the deep shame that gave me. And
That's so gross.
It's so awful, right? But how do you even tell on a girl for oh, they were laughing. Well, what were they laughing at? I don't know, but it was how they said it. It's so easy for them to be like, oh, we were laughing about something else. We weren't even talking about her. It's so hard to pin down that kind of insidious bullying. And so the video I did was all clips like that, where I was sitting in a classroom and there were these 2 girls sitting in front and 1 girl sitting behind. And the 2 girls in the classroom kind of looked back and talked to the girls sitting behind them. And they were like, did you take a shower today? And the girl sitting in the back was like, yes. And the girls up there looked at each other. She's like, told you. And they both kind of giggled. And it's so hard to put my finger on why that was so mean, right? Because they just said
it's mean.
It's so mean.
You just, it's girls know. Women know.
They do. And it's so funny because in my comments of that video, it was a bunch of comments like that I've overheard at the schools. And there were so many guys being like, I don't get, how is that mean? They legit, and they're not being
women
facetious.
know.
They're like, how is that mean? They just asked if she had a shower. And all of the comments from a lot of guys were like, wow. Or a lot of people that were like, I'm just now realizing that people were a lot meaner to me than I realized.
Oh, no.
I'm completely destroying childhoods because they didn't realize they were being bullied. A lot of people that are neurodivergent who take things very directly, a lot of them were like, oh, I'm autistic and I did not realize until this moment I was being bullied. I'm like, I'm so sorry. That is not the purpose of this. This was meant to discourage bullying and all of that. But it's been fascinating to see how many people just like me in that locker room situation, it brought them right back there. And they were like, oh, this was deeply upsetting for me to hear because I I remember that feeling of being a middle school girl. And you always kind of hope like, well, it's a new era of like raising kids and maybe they're better now. They
No.
are not.
No. The time that really stuck with me when I got picked on was in high school. I was actually about to graduate.
Mm.
And I had just gotten out of like, everyone has their toxic high school relationship with that sleazeball of a guy.
Right.
And I actually had just met like my now husband. And there was this girl that I thought she was my friend. Like I thought we were best friends. But apparently she was just a mean girl. I had no idea. I had no idea she was like covering for my ex when he was cheating on me. Had no clue.
Oh
no
my gosh.
Clue.
Was he hooking
She was
up
like
with
one of
her?
No, she was dating his best friend, so she was just like a pick me for the group, Yeah, she just like wanted to be like she's one of the guys. Like
not a girl's girl.
You. Whatever. Yeah, no. So but like I just kind of cut that group out of my life and just started moving on. And she did not like that. That like bothered her. She had no more control over me, right? Yeah. So she and the friends of the girl that my ex cheated on me with went to Harris Teeter, which is a grocery store, and they ordered a cookie cake that said the words prom ? And they put it on my car. And I had TA with her boyfriend. So she had her boyfriend tell me, hey, someone's messing with your car. You should go see what it is. And so I went to my car and there was this cookie cake. And she just happened to be there, getting something out of her car. And she goes, oh, look, you must have a secret admirer. That's so sweet. And he goes to this school. So I guess you don't need to talk to that older guy because he doesn't even go to school here. So like, wouldn't it make so much more sense to like see who your secret admirer is here? You should definitely like was trying to gaslight me into like not speaking to my now husband anymore.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And I literally in that moment, I realized how much of a snake she was and like all so many other experiences and interactions between the two of us just like all of a sudden made sense.
Yeah.
And it felt so bad because this was like my friend of a year.
Yeah.
And I will never get over that.
It's such a Carrie level thing to do. Like that's so insidious to go through that effort and like do a cook. Oh, that's
so much effort.
That's expensive.
Right?
Cookie cakes are not cheap. Like no form of cake is cheap to do. And and also like you have that moment of being like, aw, like somebody wants to take me to prom. And then that moment of like, oh, that's like the never been kissed like prom scenario. Like,
see, as soon as I like, it was like a split second thing. I saw the cake, I got confused. And the moment I saw her with the girl's friends, because again, she was with the friends of the girl that my ex cheated on me with.
Gosh.
As soon as I saw them, I was like, no.
Oh. I mean,
well, how stupid do they think I am?
I would be that stupid. I'd be so trusting. I'd be like, oh my gosh, a secret admirer? I'm so popular. Like, I truly, it's so funny because I really do like, and my husband always roasts me for this. I believe the best intentions of people. And I'm just like, oh yeah, like they're so nice. And then I get invited to like, hey, do you want to come over and hang out? And like, oh, it's a pyramid scheme. Like it's...
See, okay, you are a total golden retriever. I'm not a total black cat. Like, I think I'm a mix, Because I definitely have golden retriever moments.
Yeah.
But internally, 100% black cat mentality.
Yeah. That's how my husband is, where he'll be like, no, there's something off. And I'm like, no, they're so nice. And then it's like, would you like to buy these oils? And I'm like, oh, I thought this was friendship. I guess not. Like, it's so bad.
Oh my God. I love that so much.
So one of the things that we do on the podcast is I get questions from the audience and then I have you give your take and I give my take on the question. So the question that was submitted was how do you stay positive around really negative coworkers who love to complain and gossip? I've been setting boundaries for a couple of months and it's so awkward.
I guess for me, I always looked at it as a choice. And, if they are choosing the victim mentality of woe is me, I'm stuck in this classroom, I'm so miserable. Cause like we can acknowledge what's wrong with the public education system and still enjoy teaching. Like I
100%.
did.
Yeah.
I did
Yeah.
for a while. Yeah. The reason that I left had nothing, like I genuinely enjoyed being in my classroom teaching kids about social studies. I loved that.
Yeah.
Um, so if you choose to go into that classroom every day, woe is me, I'm so miserable, the sky is falling, I hate my life. That's your choice and you can do that. But I'm not going to choose that. That sounds like a terrible choice to
Yeah.
me. I'm going to make a fool of myself in the classroom trying to get these kids to like history. I remember like one time to get the kids excited to learn about the Revolutionary War, I literally walked into the classroom and guys, I got to vent to you about my friends. Like I have this one friend who's just so controlling and blah, blah, blah. Like went on and like was basically describing Great Britain and America. They
I
had
love
no
that.
idea. They got so invested in this drama. And like,
That's so good.
I was like, I guess we're writing breakup letters. And so like,
Yes.
I choose to be just like I don't know if you need to beep this out or not, but like whenever I choose to be that dumbass with a camera. I chose to be that dumbass in the classroom. Like I chose to have fun.
Yeah.
And just because other people don't want to have fun, that doesn't mean that I can't have fun.
Yeah. I think that's exactly it. And it can be hard depending on the size of the school you're at and the amount of people you're working with, because it's a lot easier to like set boundaries when you do have at least one other person who's on the same page as you. And I've had people reach out and be like, there's nobody here who loves teaching. And to me, it's like, okay, well, it sounds like maybe it's time to find a school where maybe there's a little bit more of that happy, loving teaching, loving the kids energy. And it's interesting too, because I think that there is some real value to having people that you trust and that are encouraging that you can vent to. And it is a balance between venting versus complaining and gossiping.
Yes. Yes.
The energy is different. Like the feeling of like if you have a really rough day with a student and you go and you tell one of your peers like, "Oh my gosh, like this kid, like this is what happened. I'm really frustrated." And the person you're talking to saying like, "That's really rough. I'm so sorry. Like it's going to be better tomorrow, blah blah blah." Or that person being like, "Yeah, that kid sucks." Like that's a completely different energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I sometimes think that the situations where people are complaining and gossiping, maybe they're not always intending for it to come across like that. I'm sure there have been times where I was really frustrated and it came across as like complaining and gossiping to my peers as opposed to being like venting and just needing to like verbally process. Like I'm such a verbal processor where I'm like, this is what happened. This is what I did. I'm really upset about this and I just need to process it. And I think that I for sure had to be intentional about maintaining positivity sometimes and being like, no, like I love these kids. I love that kid in particular. Like I need to figure out a way to get to them, and to get them like pulled back in to what we're doing in class and all of that. But I think it is kind of a hard balance sometimes, especially when you're tired and feeling burned out and all of that. So before we let you go, can you update us on all of the amazing things you're doing, where people can find you and all of that?
Yeah, I'm in the middle of changing some of my handles, so some of them are a little all over the place.
Okay.
They're not all the same right now. I'm so sorry.
Sorry.
I'm a tornado person. It's okay. I'm honestly, if you just look up Rebecca Rogers, you'll find me. Yeah, that's just the easy way to do it. Yeah. I'm verified everywhere. So if there's not a check mark, it's not me. Don't trust these scammers. They're dangerous out there. Asking people for money and their addresses, don't do it. Other than that, I just have my podcast called Would You Believe, that when I travel to Indiana, I'm going to make Andrea do with me.
Can't wait.
And we're going to have so much fun doing that.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's on all platforms, everything, all the listening platforms on YouTube, Facebook, everywhere.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Rebecca, I had so much fun chatting with you today. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Of course, I had so much fun with you.
Yay. All right, guys. When we get back, we're going to find out what your students are doing in the classroom. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Those Who Can't Do. I had so much fun hanging out with Rebecca and sharing stories about the mean girls that we experienced in our own lives, and also some of our own moments where we lacked a little bit of, I'm not going to say critical thinking. That seems a little harsh, but that's probably also accurate. So maybe just we lacked critical thinking as early teachers in our careers. We do the best we can with the resources we're given. And we just kind of try and do our best, right? And I think that's something that Rebecca and I definitely shared. Speaking of doing our best, you guys sent me some phenomenal things for what are those kids doing. And one of the things the kids are doing in your classroom is referring to each other as butt plugs. And I kind of enjoy this in particular because it very much reminds me of when I was in school and we called each other like butt munches, or like we would get like real specific on the butt and then just add something on the end. So it feels like a natural progression of the English language that we then are moving into now a butt plug. It is just unfortunate that a butt plug is also a instrument for other things. That's less ideal, but apparently it is also what is occurring in your classrooms. So I am sorry about that. Something else that a student apparently did is they airdropped the entirety of the B movie to their entire class. And number one, how? I don't think, I did not know you could airdrop something, a file that large. Like I can't even send videos via email that are like a minute and a half for like advertisers. Like it always tells me I have to upload to the drive. So I'm just wondering like, how did they do that? Number one. And also of all of the movies, we went with the B movie. I think that was a bold choice. I feel like if I were going to airdrop something, I don't know what it would be. Probably not the B movie. It's not my favorite, to be honest. No disrespect to anyone involved in that movie. It was a lovely movie. But I feel like Shrek would probably be the one I do, not because of what I've discussed about Shrek on many of my channels and the horrifying YouTube video regarding Shrek that I was shown in my class, but just because I love the movie Shrek, like the actual Mike Myers one. Mike. That's right? That's right. Okay. Yeah. We're going to go with it. If you have thoughts about whether or not it's Michael Myers, because I think that's the serial killer, or Mike Myers, the comic who also did the Austin Powers movies, I'm feeling more confident now as I go into this. So we're going to lean harder into it. If you have thoughts about that or about anything else that we discussed today, I would love to hear from you. You can hit me up on social media on @EducatorAndrea on TikTok or Instagram, or you can email us at andrea@human-content.com, or you can contact the Human Content Podcast family at Human Content Pods. And this is still a new podcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and leaving your reviews. And because this stuff is pre-recorded, I know I keep saying I'm going to give you a shout out, and you're like, where's the shout outs, Andrea? And they're coming. I'm not just making that up and just trying to like tease you and say we're going to do shout outs. It's that we are recording this, it has not been released yet. So I don't have shout outs. Actually, no, I do. My dad. That is a lie. So before I even launched, my dear sweet father went in and gave me a 5-star review. And I have to tell you that I was told by some of my friends, like, oh, you already have a review. And they read it. It said like smart, witty, insightful. And before they even said the name of who it was, I was like, that's for sure my dad. And they read the name and it was my dad, because my dad is a ride or die like that. So shout out to my dad, Bill. Thank you so much for your never ending support. It is a wonderful thing to have a dad that is just there. Like he's just immediately like, it's going to be witty, insightful. Andrea did it. So thank you, Dad. I appreciate that. And on there it says Bulla Pratt said witty, sincere, and thoughtful. So thank you. If you want to check out full episodes on YouTube, they are going to be up every single week at Educator Andrea. Thank you guys so much for listening. I really appreciate it. I am your host, Andrea Forkham. A very special thank you to our wonderful guest, Rebecca Rogers. Our executive producers are Andrea Forkham, Aaron Corney, Rob Goldman, and Shanti Brooke. Our editor is Andrew Sims. Our engineer is Jason Portizo. Our music is by Omer Benzvi. Our recording location is the Indiana State By College of Education. To learn more about our Those Who Can't Do's program disclaimer and ethics policy and submission verifications and licensing terms, you can go to podcasterandrea.com. Those Who Can't Do is a human content production. Thank you so much for watching. If you're like me and you're thinking, gosh, I really need more Those Who Can't Do in my life, you can start your binging right now by clicking on that playlist button right over there. New episodes are out every Thursday, so please subscribe and join us each week on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.